everyone. Today I'm interviewing Vikram Bahl, the Chief Marketing Officer at United Breweries. Now, UB is by far the largest marketer of beer in the country. It is a part of the giant Dutch Heineken Group. In this video, you will learn how UB keeps its iconic Kingfisher brand young and fresh, why food influences the choice of beer, how the taxation policy drives Indians to hard drinks, and what beer has in common with soft drinks. So let's get started. Hi, Vikram. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure and really nice to be able to talk to you today.
So I'm going to jump into it straight away. One thing I wanted to ask you was that you were in several well-known FMCG companies, before you joined UB. What was your first reaction to the business? Because it's quite different from other businesses that you'd be in.
Yes, great question. Actually, if you see this business, it's technically an FMCG business. See, it's a business of very high frequency purchases, high involvement, consumer outlays in line with what consumers pay in FMCG, and brands matter a lot. So in a lot of ways, it's an FMCG business. I think what makes it peculiar over here is our regulatory scenario. So, while I think in my previous organizations also we used to say, winning in many Indias and doing a state by state, region by region thing. But over here, it is a reality because every state has its own regulations. So the way you approach the consumer, the way you approach the industry is very different by state. And then secondly, of course, there is a lot of regulatory control on this category, unlike in typical FMCG industry. So those are two things which make it very distinct. Challenging at the same time exciting because you have to be much more innovative and creative. And I think the last thing I would say, which really struck about this category is the very high degree of consumer involvement. People really, it's a lifestyle product,
Right.
I think the involvement that I see in this category is next level. So those are the few differences I saw.
Don't you feel like you're going to battle without one of your main tools, which is advertising?
Definitely. I mean, I will not deny that.
Of course, your opponent doesn't have the same weapon either.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a level playing field from that standpoint.
Yeah.
The good thing though is that there is this concept of what we call on trade, right? Where consumer can actually experience the product and you can, talk to them and engage with the consumer in their point of consumption. So typically in an FMCG product, I can't do that, right? If I'm marketing a soap, a shampoo, a blade, I can't get into the bathroom and interact with them. But here you have on trade restaurants and bars, etc., where you can sample product, you can deliver live experiences. So it's a great brand building additional tool that I have, which I did not have as an FMCG marketer, which I actually find quite interesting.
Very, very. That's very well put. So you have this. I was going through your website. So you have of course Kingfisher, which is like an iconic brand, and the companies are identified with it. But I notice you have a lot of brands which are probably strong in different regions and probably were acquired. I'm not sure why they are different, but there are several of them. They seem to be strong regionally. And then you've got the international range, Heineken and I think a couple of others. How does marketing for each of these segments differ? And I mean, how do you create differentiation in a meaningful way?
Yeah, no, again, a great question. And I say this to my folks in the global setup, that India is not a country, it's a continent. So clearly, I mean, needs are different by geography. And within a geography also, there are different strata of consumers, right? We have a population which is bigger than many developed countries. We have the belly, and then we have bottom of the pyramid. So, be it from a lifestyle and affluence point of view, be it from a culture standpoint, we're a super diverse country. And this category in particular, I think, is quite local in nature. So this is something which struck me, that across the world, every country has its own favorite beer. So while they are global brands, but every country, you
Is that
travel anywhere.
is that even more so in beer than in hard liquor?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it is, because I think
Okay.
beer does not travel that easily,
Ah, right.
etc., etc. Requires refrigeration. So all those, because of that, I think it's evolved as a, and like I said, India is a continent, so we have region specific beer brands which have evolved over a period of time. Now, of course, Kingfisher, no brainer, king of good times. The way we market it, and we can talk more about that later.
Right.
But then we have these regional jewels, and there's a lot of love in the local population for those. And so our job is to make sure that we keep these brands relevant, make sure they're available at all times, provide the best of quality, etc., etc. And then the international brands, again, there are people who look for products which have an international flavor to them, who are globally recognized, offer premium experiences. So, Heineken, Amstel, etc., do that. So, I mean, and of course, while all these things are true, each of these potentially also meet different needs, right? So, uh, Heineken, it's the we find the need for a brand like Heineken is, of course, getting the best quality beer, etc. But it's a little bit about looking good, being able to, show that you've got great discerning taste and so on. Whereas, Kingfisher is all about people getting together and having a great time. So, they also cater to different needs from that point of
I was just thinking, it just struck me that, food tends to be so local. It does the fact, I mean, because people do have, liquor with food very often. There's some form of food, even if it's snacks. Does the fact that food is very local, is that why is liquor's close to it? Could that be an influencing factor? It's the kind of food you eat or the snacks you eat with it, and
view. I
therefore
think
the taste
so.
of beer needs to be different, maybe.
I think so. I think so. I think that it's again a very good point, because uh, in some cultures, people have their beer with their main meal. So when they do that, then the beer they are looking for is a very light beer, so it can go with food.
So, say
In some,
biryani, for instance, right?
eh, yeah, exactly. If you're having biryani and you're having this thing, then you want a slightly lighter beer. But if you're having just a starter which is a little spicy, then maybe you go for something which is stronger. So
Okay.
100% food has a bearing on it.
Okay. You have a very large range of beers, right? Uh, I mean, obviously, a couple of them must be huge and several must be fairly small. But does range, having such a big range, I mean, carrying a big range is also a burden sometimes, right? You have to support more brands. But what kind of advantage does range give you?
Look, that range that we talk about, that range does not exist all over the country. So I'll give you an
Ah,
example. We have a brand called UB Export in Karnataka, very loved brand. I have it in Karnataka. I don't have it anywhere else in the country. So when you
oh,
see my entire portfolio for the country, then you see a lot of brands, but those brands are not. Kingfisher is a national brand, and a few other brands are national brands. So that's how it works. And then the point that I made earlier, of course, having a range allows you to cater to different segments and different tastes. So that is
yeah.
definitely an advantage.
Okay. Does it give you advantages in the distributor fraternity, as it were?
Yeah.
The fact that they can.
So distributors are partners to help serve consumer needs. So I think what if we have peers that cater to different consumer needs, are loved by consumers. Obviously, distributors love it, uh, But if you have a wide range and you don't have consumer traction for it,
Yeah. No.
I don't think they're going to be super excited about it. So
Yeah.
they're basically here to serve consumers along with us.
No. Vikram, there have been several articles in the media, international media, perhaps in Indian media as well, about the fact that the view of the young towards alcohol consumption is somewhat different from that of earlier generations. How do you view this? What do you personally see as what has changed?
Yeah. See, couple of things. One is globally, definitely there is a trend towards lower alcohol consumption. There is no denying that. There are alternatives people are going for, and there is moderation also happening.
Mm.
We don't see that happening too much in India. It's probably but the trends that you see globally tend to come to India eventually. So among the affluent, you see that happening a little bit, which is great. I think moderation is good. Uh, Second thing is that what we are seeing is that two things in particular I would point out. One is, and this is India specific, as the country is getting a little bit more affluent, as people are socializing more, as their exposure to social media is happening. I think we are seeing younger people, their go-to drink is becoming beer, because beer is a drink, around socializing. It's a relatively more moderate choice also. So I think that's something we see happening in the category and we see as a tailwind. Plus, with rising affluence, I think the consumers are getting more exposed. The younger consumers are getting more exposed to options, right? What all is out there. So their openness to experiment, to try new forms of alcohol, to potentially go for more premium offerings, that is also happening. So I think what's happening is, and it's the start of a trend. It's from alcohol in India, honestly, to a large extent, was functional drinking, right? It served a very specific purpose. That I think is changing gradually. From being a functional drink, it's becoming more a social glue. And I feel that's a really positive trend that's happening.
So you say that as there's a trend towards moderation. So it actually helps the beer
Yeah.
market in India. Um, so two questions on that. One is that when you say moderation, is it that people are drinking less per sitting, or is it that they're drinking less frequently? One. And the second question is a very large percentage of the Indian beer market, perhaps the bulk, I don't have the percentage, but you would have it, is strong beers. Do you
Yes.
see a change in that of strong beer versus mild beer?
Yeah. So again, let me re-emphasize this moderation. I don't see it's very niche right now in India. So
In
by
India,
and
okay.
large, the alcohol industry in India is on a growth path.
Okay.
Okay, the mix is changing towards the more lower alcohol. So beer is, so that's number one. Number two is that yes, you're right. Strong is the predominant segment in beer, but I think we have to see it in the context of the country. Our country is predominantly a spirits consuming country. It's historically been the case, and the taxation and pricing is favorable for spirits. So hence, when people go, when they migrate from spirits to a strong beer, it's actually moderation.
Okay. All
So
right.
that's why those the I think strong beers are here to stay for the foreseeable future, unless the government relooks at taxation. If it starts charging taxes based on the amount of alcohol, and hence the affordability, because in India affordability is critical in any segment that you see. uh, at the moment that equation starts changing, I think we'll start seeing mild beer growing. And I don't know if you noticed, but the Karnataka government recently announced that they are going to come up with a very progressive taxation policy, which is based on what I talked about, the amount of alcohol. If that happens, and when that happens, I think we will see a trend towards milder beers and lower alcohol options growing faster.
When is this new Karnataka regulation going to come into force?
Uh, you know, I think it should be around the corner.
Oh,
So
okay.
they've given they released a draft of that. So hopefully we will see that coming soon.
Vikram, apart from the young, post-COVID, actually, a lot of markets have changed. The way people look at their spends. It has, the worldview has changed. Has that impacted alcohol consumption in any way, especially beer? Now, I'm not talking only of the youth, but generally the consumer.
Yeah. See, when COVID happened, obviously everybody's life turned upside down.
Right.
What we saw was in-home consumption expectedly increased because socialization reduced, right? So in
Correct.
that way, beer was adversely hit because beer is a social drink. It's and so on. So, however, I think uh, that has now I think is behind us because as you know, like revenge tourism happened, revenge socializing is happening. So people are out and about. They want to live their life to the fullest, etc. So I feel uh, with this, we saw that there was a little bit of a bottoming out during COVID. But now, if you see the beer industry in particular, it's way past the pre-COVID levels. But yes, this phenomena did happen during COVID. There was this like increase of in-home consumption, and now I think that's behind us. And I would agree. I would almost say that it's actually increased
So,
socializing.
traditionally, what has been the in-home consumption of beer versus drinking out, and how has that changed?
Uh, See, I think majority of the consumption of beer is out of home, and I think that was the case pre-COVID as well. So
That's okay.
during the COVID era, because people's general drinking, because of all the social restrictions that were there, went
Okay.
in home, and that was not so much in favor of beer. Now it's back, and it continues to be the dominant consumption occasion.
So these really are good times for beer, huh? Not just
Ab-
Kingfisher, right?
no, absolutely. I genuinely think that beer is while it's a form of alcohol, but I think it does two things beyond that, right? It is it's cold and refreshing. So summertime, it's a genuinely refreshing drink, and then it's a social drink. How many of us say after work, let's grab beer, right? Why is that? Because it's kind of a social glue. It brings people together.
Sure. Okay. What so when I look at microbreweries, I mean, I've been to several, but it's hard to make out how many there are because you can't easily make out, right?
Yeah.
It isn't like a brand which is visible. So you think this something which is local, but have microbreweries proliferated as much as it had once seemed that they would? And what has been the impact of them on the way in which people view branded beer?
Yeah. Look, microbrewery is a phenomenon that exists across the world, right? In India, it's relatively recent. It's been around for some
Correct.
time now. I think I think it's a good phenomena for the beer category. I mean, there is a whole ecosystem which is making beer interesting and exciting. Uh,
Correct.
so people get to try different forms of beer. So beer, I think, gets elevated with microbreweries coming in. Having said that, most of the consumption still happens in bottled beer. So while microbreweries are there, I think they help build the category. And actually, the people who sell bottled beer and canned beer, in a way, benefit from that. But overall, the category, I think, benefits the moment something like microbreweries come in. Just makes beer more exciting, more appealing.
Look,
Yeah,
could you one say that micro breweries are like the cocktails of beer in a sense? You're seeing them in different ways. You got pepper and lemon peel and all kinds of things which you would
correct,
never
correct.
have, isn't it?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, 100%. It makes beer more interesting, exciting, innovative. But on an ongoing basis, we still find the go-to beer for people will still be the lager.
Yeah, sure.
So it makes it
Sure.
appealing and interesting, but then your go-to drink, on an ongoing basis is still the lager.
Okay. So many brands, I mean, whether it was a Cadillac in America or a Levi's in India or perhaps a Kingfisher here, as they get older and more iconic, they also become the dad's beer, the dad's jeans, the dad's car, as it were. So what do you do? How do you view this? I mean, that's a challenge for Kingfisher, isn't it? That how to stay relevant. So
Yes.
give me your broad view of how you're doing that.
Oh, very true. I've worked on some big brands, and the challenge always is that the bigger they become and the longer they've been around, they're suddenly seen as legacy brands, and newer brands are seen as the cool kids on the block. But there is a trust and equity these mega brands enjoy, which I mean, if you do the right things, it will always remain. But it's also important to keep them contemporary. So I think the way we do that is of course, by innovating. So, as you know, Kingfisher also has a premium variant, Kingfisher Ultra, which overall helps the Kingfisher brand because the imagery that it drives, the offering that it has, the consumers that it caters to is so that helps drive some part of the imagery. Uh, then time to time we come with innovations on the brand. So we did an in and out with a Queenfisher variant of Kingfisher, which is
Hmm.
to increase the wider appeal of
Oh, I
Kingfisher.
didn't know about that. Was it
Yeah,
recently?
yeah, 2 years back we did it. So we did a limited edition Queenfisher pack. We brought it out on Women's Day. So that
Okay,
was
nice.
generated a lot of virality and news and so on. So Uh, then we then we last year came out with Kingfisher flavors, couple of flavors in Kingfisher. This year we have launched a variant of Kingfisher, and by the way, that's something when you ask me about youth in specifically in beer, I think the one of the challenges beer is the go-to drink for youth, no doubt about it. The need there is low bitterness and easy to drink, and hence we have come out with a new variant of Kingfisher called Kingfisher Smooth. So it's still a strong beer, but it's a smooth beer. So
Okay.
it improves the drinking experience and so on. So these innovations to keep the brand alive and vibrant. Every now and then we refresh the packaging and the look of the brand. The partnerships that we do, they're rooted in culture. What's trending, we try and stay in touch with. So last year, Kingfisher partnered with the Argentinian football team. So we did a nice campaign with the lead Argentinian players in it because among youth, football is
Balls.
actually a very very popular sport. We partner with the emerging artists. So we did a
Yeah.
we did a tour with Karan Aujla,
Okay.
who for a large part of the country is really trending and very popular. So combination of all these things to keep the brand
Yeah.
youthful and vibrant.
Yeah. And you've been there for, I think, more than 3 years now. How has your media mix changed during this time? And where is it
Yeah,
heading?
yeah. So of course on Kingfisher we don't on the beer brand we do not do any advertising, so there is no media there.
Hmm.
What we like I said, our most critical touch point is actually the store. While you know the rest of it is there, but the store is such a super important touch point, whether it's on trade, which is restaurants and bars, because that's where people really engage and interact with the brand, or it's off trade, Uh, Now, there,
What would be off trade?
off trade is typical store from where you buy your beer and take away
Acha,
with you.
okay, cool. All right. Yeah.
So those are the two, and hence, the way we present our brand over there, we've really invested behind it. And Kingfisher in some ways is like, what do you call it? It's when a person sees a Kingfisher signage, they know that this is a place which has beer in it. So it's kind of good for the category's growth also. So we, in ways that we can, which we are allowed to do, we make sure that Kingfisher stands out in the store, because it not only helps the Kingfisher brand but also the category. A lot of times the category leading brands, when they do things, it actually helps the category. We've
Yeah, sure.
invested a lot behind coolers. So branded coolers drive, again, brand and category growth. So we've really invested significantly behind it. Which, at the end of the day, you go to a store and you see, in the heat, right now is getting really hot, right? You go to a store and you see this appealing visual of a chilled beer. I think it helps category growth and the brand. So those are some of the things that we are investing in big time.
The way you're describing it, Vikram, it almost makes beer sound like a soft drink. But it's the same thing, You're hot
I,
and
I
sweaty.
I'm telling you, there is a lot of. I know it is alcohol, but it is very
Yeah,
refreshing. And I have colleagues who've come from the Pepsis and Cokes of the world, and there's so many commonalities between the two
yeah,
categories.
sure. There's been a lot of talk now as economies develop, people do move on to better products. Okay, and there's a term for it which keeps on coming back, which is premiumization. Now,
Yeah,
is it something I want to ask you, not just for beer, but across categories, because you've been in so many of them, is what we call premiumization, I'm using it in single quotes, is it part of a general trend of people moving on to finer things? Or is there something else here? Is it, which I wonder about sometimes, that is it that the consuming class is not growing now beyond a point, and the way in which companies can grow is by just people paying more per unit, as it were, and hence premiumization. What do you think at a broad category,
yeah,
at
yeah.
a
No,
broad level?
yeah, no. I think it's the natural progression of our society, right? We are a low income country, and we are getting more and more affluent. Like I said, there are many Indias, and all of us are looking for better experiences, better products, and are willing to pay more for it. So I have seen this in the categories I worked in the past, and certainly over here. I mean, the premium segment of the market is certainly growing faster than the other segments. So I think it's a natural progression. It's happening here, and certainly for us, it's a priority to avail of this opportunity. It's not something. I think it's a natural progression. It's not that companies are deliberately, you know.
Yeah,
Of
exactly.
course, you want premiumization, and you will support that. But if the macroeconomics and the social conditions are not suitable for it, it's not going to easily happen.
But Vikram, my point actually was that, is it that the in India, so we always assume the bottom of the pyramid is the one that would grow the fastest, right? And then you say that, okay, so Maruti 800 sells the most, then it's Maruti Alto, then it's Santro, etc. But then you realize that actually the largest selling segments are going higher up, right?
Yeah,
So, and more people are not buying those. People are buying, more people are buying the cars, but the basic growth is coming more from the. So there is more business to be had by getting people to move one step up, that to get them into the consuming class broadly. Wouldn't you
yeah.
agree?
No, 100%. Like, there are categories which will have 90%, 95% penetration. For
Right.
them, the is upgrading. So if there is a sachet of shampoo being consumed, how do I get them to consume a mini bottle or a more
So,
premium variant of the sachet? And at the top end, you have the most premium offering. So that's logical. In the case of beer, however, the opportunity exists at both ends of the spectrum. Uh, why? Because the penetration of, and actually the occasion share of beer is very low in this country. So if you see
Well, sorry, could you explain that occasion share is low?
so beer is the most penetrated alco bev in the country, no doubt about that.
Correct, correct.
However, in 8 or 9 out of 10 occasions, people in India have spirits, not beer. So there is a terrific opportunity for, and our per capita consumption of beer is 2.5 liters per person, which in countries it is 120 liters per person. So the opportunity at every level is significant, and hence for me as the market leader, my single biggest priority is actually growing the category, and hence that's why I was referring to having cooler available, having the right branding in stores. Pricing is a very very key element. Wherever the government regulations support beer pricing, I think that we see category take off like nobody's business. So I think for as I see in beer, the opportunity exists at both ends of the spectrum. It's growing the category, getting more people into beer, and 100% premiumization is there.
On to my last question, which is that if you look at the next, if we were having this conversation, say 3 years later, what might have been different? What could be different about a conversation like that? How would the category have changed? It's another way of asking, where do you think this category is going over the next 3 years?
I think that would be a summary of the conversation we've just had. I would love to see their share of total alco bev increasing. So that would feel like, okay, beer's moved in the right direction, which it is moving towards. And I think it's a good thing because it's a relatively moderate alcohol. So that would be number one. I think, if I talk about the category, then yeah, of course, I think the rising premiumization, like I said, is there to stay. For UB, I think continuing to see the iconicity of Kingfisher sustaining, that would be always a priority. It's a much loved brand. The brand is probably as big as the next four brands, and in terms of brand love is amazing. But your question on keeping Kingfisher contemporary and relevant is a very important one. So keeping that iconicity, this thing, and then growing our international portfolio. Uh, you know, fantastic products like Heineken, for example, one of the only beers which is only made out of three ingredients: barley, hops, and water. It has a very unique fermentation process. It has, so it's got so much. It uses a very specific yeast. So it's a fantastic beer. So growing that portfolio, we've got a under latest innovation that we launched a couple of years back was a beer from our Amstel brand, which was developed only for India, called Amstel Grande. So it's a
Okay.
premium strong beer. So seeing these international brands and our innovations, doing well, those would be the things I would be looking from a UB standpoint.
Okay, just a fun question, last one. When you talk to your colleagues outside India, what is the stuff that surprises them most about the beer market in India?
Okay, so a how underpenetrated it is, the per capita consumption being so low, and which on the other hand excites them a lot also because the growth
Yeah.
opportunity is
So,
tremendous, and the scale of the Kingfisher brand. So Kingfisher brand in our portfolio is the third or fourth biggest brand in volume terms across the world. While
wow.
it's mainly a one country, though we sell it in 60, 70 other countries, but most of the business comes from India. So the scale and the power of the Kingfisher brand is something that people get totally blown away by.
Well, wonderful, Vikram. Thank you very much. That was an insightful conversation, and best of luck with Kingfisher and the rest.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Srikanth. Lovely talking to you. Take care.
All right. See you. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye. Bye.